So you should be able to do the screen share now, or yeah. And then we can change your name because it shows that you're Lisa. Oh, start video. There we are.
We're recording now, so we don't really want to do that. But why are we recording?
Trying to figure out how you. Maybe it's here. Or rename.
Thank you. You're an expert in Zoom. You didn't
I need to figure out how to actually just change it, but I don't know how.
What is it on TV? I know. Okay. We'll see. We're recording. We're recording. Walking through the had some technical difficulties, and needed to have Stephanie help me. So let's see if we get anyone to join us. Crystal. Crystal. Hello, Crystal. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, hey, how are you?
How are you today?
Good.
Good.
No complaining.
Are you building a house? Or are you sitting somewhere? I thought last time you were.
We're remodeling. I'm doing showers, the bathrooms, trim, crown mold.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm kind of double, what do you call it? Juggling two things at one time right now.
Is that for your own house or for a house you're selling?
For a company I do some work for.
Oh,
Property
awesome.
management. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll get some other people on. Last time nobody showed up, so.
Oh, Lord.
No. It's just now going to be 10, so we'll give everybody a few minutes.
Okay.
Remind me again, you transferred, is that correct?
No, ma'am, I'm just fresh.
Brand new,
Just got my license a little over a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got my temporary. I got to finish my other class and get my permanent.
Well, congrats.
Thank you.
So basically, I'll give you a little bit of background. I set this class up to be originally it was 4 segments. I broke it down into B3 now. Last week's class was buyers, meaning kind of just a general overview of where to get buyers, some buyer consultation, comments, and then all of the documents that are required. So,
Okay.
I see we've got Jamisa joining us, so I'll wait so I don't have to repeat myself. So you don't have to hear my spiel twice. Is it Jamisa? Am I saying it right? Jamisa?
Yes, Jamisa.
Jamisa. Okay, I don't want to mess up your name. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to give everybody about maybe 3 or 4 more minutes. What'd you say?
I was just saying, thank you for having the class.
Oh, yeah, no worries. We are going to record this one, so it'll be up on our, I think they just put it on our YouTube page, I guess. I don't prefer these Zoom meetings. I feel like I'm just talking to like space. I mean, I can see your faces and everything, but it's just, I like to be in person, so it's been a little bit challenging to do that.
I do too. Yeah, I prefer in person too.
Well, and they're always different, so that's another reason why I like to do them live, because I feel like if you're just going to watch the video, you might miss something from every series because people ask different questions.
Mm-hmm.
Or sometimes just different stories come up in my head that I didn't tell the last time, so it depends on what I can remember that day. what my brain is actually processing or not processing. So, okay, we got 4 on. I see Miss Jackie's with us. So hi, Jackie. So we'll go ahead and get started. And then you guys, this is just pretty much free flow. If you want to pop in and have a question, do not hesitate to just jump on in. We'll stop. The reason why I started this class is because here at Keller Williams, we have a lot of training sessions that are based on like how to business classes, like how to market your business, how to grow your business, how to plan your business and all that kind of thing. But there was nothing really that talked about how to do the job itself. So I just kind of, we have definitely mentors that will help you through every single transaction. By far, every time, if you have a question, do not hesitate to ask our mentors. But we just didn't have anything in place at the time to have somebody really explain the process. So that's kind of why I started it. We do have the productivity managers now, productivity coaches now, so that's kind of their job as well. We didn't have that when I started the class, but it's probably good to hear from a few different people. Again, you have different stories. The way I learned this job, and I'm sure what everybody else has learned, is unfortunately through going through it. Nothing like trial by fire on the job. So that when you're able to hear stories from other agents, you can learn a lot from their stories. So if you have time, once we get through COVID and are able to be together more, just listen to their stories. Agents love to tell their success stories and their failures, and that's where you're going to learn a lot of, not just their failures, but things that may happen in a transaction. So that's where you're going to learn a lot about just things that can go wrong, things that can go right, that kind of stuff. I'm going to trail off a little bit here for a second, but last week, 2 weeks ago, I had a deal that was about to fall through because my client had USDA and they found something in her history that would not allow a USDA loan. And she's bawling and, everybody's freaking out. But luckily, I had talked to another lender just that week before that had told me that they had 100% programs, and I was able to save the deal. So we're delayed a little bit, but she's able to get a different loan. So had I not talked to that lender, had I not had conversations with that lender, some people would have been like, oh, sorry, it's over. But so educating yourself everywhere possible is very important. So I applaud you guys for taking this class because it definitely is important to do that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have notes. So I think I'm going to share my screen. Okay, there we go. If you don't see it, let me know. Okay, so basically, it's kind of just, my notes are just kind of just highlights for me on talking points. So it's not really anything that's going to help you guys 100%, but if you want me to send it to you, I can. It's not a problem. But again, it's more just kind of highlights for me. So I start off talking about sellers, and we talk a little bit about pre-listing and listing packages. And I guess this is kind of a little bit different now, because when we used to do before COVID, you were going to listing appointments and you were going to their houses and you wanted to have something to bring to show them your listing presentation. I don't know, it's just so much different now, but the pre-listing package is something that you should have and create for yourself, just to kind of show people, like maybe possible sellers, that you have, that you're professional, that you have marketing and that kind of thing that you can show them. Usually, and this is kind of the difference in this is if you're cold calling people versus if you are getting most of your leads from your sphere of influence. So these things are going to vary. I have, in my experience, most of my sellers have come from people that I already knew. So I wasn't really ever competing against another agent for the listing. I kind of had the listing. So I didn't really lean on my pre-listing packages a lot, especially if I knew them really well, if they were friends or family for a long time. I'd make them, but then I ended up just either their paper, I'd end up just recycling them, or never even opening them, because it was not a point of contention whether or not I was going to get the job or not. But if you are cold calling, or if you've met someone who you don't really know and you want to present a professional listing package for them, you want to create one. We are very fortunate right now in Command. Can you guys see when I switch over to the other? Command has these amazing templates already designed for us. So if you open designs and you go, let me go back. If you open designs and you go to templates, we already have listing presentations done for us. So if you open designs and go to templates and go to listings, there is already stuff in there ready for you to go. I just clicked on listing presentation and just downloaded the one that's in there. There's 2 choices right now. I'm sure there's gonna be plenty. You can also go through and create one if you want to from scratch. I was trying to find mine. I just had it up. Okay, I lost it. I love designs. They're really great options, but sometimes I get a little bit lost when I click something. It takes me somewhere else. So sorry about that. That was just the template one. I had saved mine. I was going to show it to you. It's kind of, there are a couple pages involved. Oh, here you go. So you can see I have already customized mine. That was for the family that I was doing it for. I put my logo in, that kind of stuff. It has, I want to say it's like 19 pages or something like that. But you can go through and just pull out, delete any page that you don't want, highlight the ones that you do, or just print 2 or 3 pages and have that in your armor of what you want to bring to a pre-listing package. Some of them are generic, so you don't have to customize them, but it's really good information. There's one in here that I really like that talks about Keller Williams and our stats. So if you don't have any history for yourself, like how many houses you've sold and that kind of stuff, how long you've been in the business, you can lean on your Keller Williams team and pull up our stats. I think that's very important to kind of lean on your team, because we are your team. You know, there's power in words. So when you say my team does this, my team does that, my team has sold blah blah blah, you know, number of houses, you're not lying. It's true. You have a team. This is the one I was talking about right here. Is the proof is in our numbers. If you go to Lisa, you can get what's called a LOA report, and you can she'll tell you how many days on market our market has as compared to the MLS, how much faster we sell homes, what our percentages of listings to sales, meaning how much more are they getting for their houses than when they listed it. So that kind of data, if you don't have your own, because like I have my own from all the listings that I've sold, but if you don't have your own, then you can go ahead and use ours. So I think that's really powerful, especially if you're going up against like a Matt Curtis, you know, or a Remax, or somebody that has been in the business a really long time. Jackie, do you have a question? I'm sorry, she's joining audio. Anyway, so that's just really good data for you to use. If you're, like I said, if you are going up in a listing presentation, it gives you a spot to put your personal experience. You know, of course, if you don't have any, you may not want to use that one. You can kind of just gloss over it. But it has Keller Williams stats in there, all of our awards, all that kind of stuff. So like I said, if you're going up to a cold listing and you want some kind of data to provide to allow people, you know, how great our brokerage is, you can use that. So anyway, the difference between a pre-listing packet and a listing packet is, let's say, for example, you meet somebody at Kroger and they're thinking about selling their house. You happen to get their name and or their email address or their actual address. You can send them the pre-listing packet, which is just kind of like a hi, hello, I'm Gina. You know, here's the little things about me. Here are some of the parts of my marketing. You know, I wouldn't give them the whole marketing, you know, the whole marketing plan in the pre-listing presentation, but just to kind of give them an idea of who you are, so that when you call them a second time, or you call them or email them a third time, they've seen something from you. Again, like, this is hard because all of it's pre-COVID, but back before COVID, people, a lot of the Keller Williams plans will tell you to do a drop off your pre-listing package with something fun, like a spaghetti dinner, you know, like a basket with a spaghetti dinner or something like that, or creative ideas for you to kind of get their attention. That's probably not a great idea right now, but I don't think mailing something is too far off the mark for the pre-COVID stuff. So, but just something to get their attention. And then the listing package is just when you actually have the appointment. So I'll tell you right now that when you go on a listing appointment, the number one thing that they want to hear is how much can they get for their house? That's what they want you. That's why they want you there. It's really easy for us as humans to want to answer their first question, but really and truly, that's the first thing you shouldn't do, because once you've given them that information, then they feel like at that point you're pretty much no use to them because you've already told them what they can get for it. So what's to stop them from just sticking a sign in the yard themselves? Especially in Madison City, when they see a lot of other for sale by owners doing it, getting it, and not having a problem. So, and this business, and just like in the world in general, behaviors are contagious, very contagious. So when someone who's thinking about selling their home sees a for sale by owner, oh yeah, we got multiple offers, and we didn't pay a seller's agent, they're saying, well, we can do it too. And while that may be true, your job really is to provide the value that a seller's agent brings, the listing agent. We don't just stick a sign in the yard and and be done with it. I mean, that's what it seems like right now, but there is other stuff involved. And the CMA is probably the biggest thing, because you're telling them how much they can, not just how much they can get for it, but what the best strategy is for listing it. You know what I mean? There's possibilities for people to get up over a certain amount, but is it the best strategy to put their house at the very top end, the very, very highest end, or is it the best strategy to come down a little bit to kind of generate that multiple offer situation? And that's where your experience comes in, to explain to them, yeah, you might be able to get 500, but it's best to list it for 493 to generate that, buzz about it, and then you'll probably get over 500 as opposed to putting it at 500 and then people waiting around to see, oh, who's going to make the offer, that kind of thing. So that discussion is about your experience and your knowledge of the market, and that's what you're really selling, is your knowledge. And then not only that would be obviously your negotiating skills is important as well, but your knowledge about the process, like what happens when the request for repairs comes in, how to negotiate that part of it. So like I said, even though that they really want to know what they can get for their house, you really want to first establish the fact that you're a professional, you're here to advise them, you're here to make the process smooth. How do they know if the person that's going to make an offer on their home is pre-approved? How do they know, who the best title company to go to is? Those type of things that you really want to impose upon them, that you know what you're doing. And of course, that's hard when you haven't done it yet. So anytime if you're planning on going on a listing presentation, one or two things. I would definitely encourage you to ask other listing agents if you can join them on a listing appointment to kind of see how people go through it. We all have our different deliveries, but going on a few different ones with a few different people will help you get the highlights, and it'll also kind of make you see what your style is and what you like to take from it. And then just, like I said, the knowledge part of it. And like I said, we're all different in the sense that some of us do cold calls, some of us are just sphere of influence. So just seeing the different types of presentations is a really good idea. The other thing too is just going and trying yourself, trying to get on listing appointments just to kind of practice, and don't think about it as, okay, I have to get this listing. I'm in an interview. Just practicing on friends and family is a really good idea too. There's tons and tons and tons of videos on YouTube from Keller. You can do it on Kelly Williams Resource or on Keller Williams YouTube. Just Google Keller Williams listing presentations. There's tons of different options for you. I wouldn't spend too much time on it because you can get a rabbit hole, but just kind of hit the highlights and decide on which kind of style works for you. Again, this market right now it's very challenging because listing appointments listings are low. So more than likely, you're probably going to find somebody who's a friend and family. That's going to be your best bet right now. So that involves just getting on the phone and trying to figure out who's ready to sell. Okay, so I went over that pretty quickly, but that one's pretty cut and dry. Like I said, once you go through the examples that we have on designs, you'll see the highlights of a listing presentation. And like I said, watching videos is probably the best thing for you to do. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right into, I don't do a CMA in this class, just because we really kind of need to be here, to be honest with you. and it's really needs kind of its own class. We used to do them a lot. I haven't done them in a long time, but if you need to do a CMA for somebody, just let us know and we can walk you through it. I guess I can tell you real quick. When I did CMA in Paragon, the top 5 things, what the things I look for are, I try to get 5 houses in each category. So I try to get an active house, a closed home or sold home, and a pending home or contingent. I try to get 5 of those for every category in the neighborhood. If I can't get the neighborhood, then I go out a 2-mile radius because that's what an appraiser is going to do. So I use the map on Paragon to go a 2-mile radius. And the reason why I try to get the actives as well as the sold and pendings is because the actives is your competition. So if you go to a neighborhood or a 2-mile radius and you have 5 active homes and they've been on the market for 25, 30 days and they're at a certain price point, you're going to know, okay, this market's not moving as fast. You know, we need to price accordingly to this market. I have not found that to be true lately. Usually every time I do my comps, there's no active houses and they're all on the market for less than 3 days. So it's just because it's crazy everywhere right now. But the other things I look at are the pendings, is because if you have 15 pendings in a neighborhood, that means that neighborhood's pretty hot. If they've all been on the market 1 or 2 days, that means it's smoking hot. Make sure you look at the price points in correspondence with your listing to say, hey, these 15 pending homes are pretty much the same size as mine. They're all priced at 300. We should stick in the 300s. I have found that a neighborhood has a cap to it. So if your neighborhoods all kind of range in the 200 to 225s, it's very unlikely that you're going to list a house for 300 in there and you'll be able to get it no matter what. I mean, I guess if it has like a pool and a detached garage and tons of extras, big extras, or it's like the largest house in the home, you might be able to garnish that amount. But if the majority of homes sit in a certain price point, no matter what they have, most of the time there's just a cap to it because the $300,000 folks have other options. They're not going to, a $200,000 neighborhood kind of still looks like a $200,000 neighborhood, if that makes sense. I just had that case over in Athens. There was a 3,000 square foot home in a neighborhood that was about 1,800 square feet max. So like most of the houses were selling at the 1,800 square feet mark. So they all were in the 220,000 mark. But the 3,000 square foot home had a pool and a detached garage that also had a pool house. And they were asking $365. So $365 in a $200,000 neighborhood, it's a hard pill to swallow, but guess what? They had 8 offers. So, and I know it went up over because my clients offered asking price. So right now, a lot of things that I'm telling you, some of it's just out the window because of the market. So it's stuff that I've seen happen in 5 years, but it's been completely different now. So that's a little bit frustrating for all of us to feel like we have a, hey Joy, to feel like we have a baseline or a benchmark and then it just gets blown up, So lately, to be honest with you, I kind of just have been throwing comps out the window because it's like, I'll comp something, I'm like, this house should get 250 and it ends up getting 290. And it's like, you feel kind of crazy because the comps are just all over the place because the market's so hot. But anyway, so let me go ahead and get to the paperwork because that's kind of the most important part for this class. If you have, first thing that I really need to tell you is that if you are going to have a listing, you know for a fact that you have a listing coming up, you need to make sure that when you hit this listings button in Paragon up here, can everybody see that? Where I am? Okay, I'm in Paragon, I'm in our MLS. When you go to our listings right here, and you go to residential, add listing residential, if you don't have that, that means that you do not have what's called broker load. You have to tell Lisa that you need broker load. They are supposed to be doing it for you as soon as you get your license and as soon as you're ready to go. For some reason, sometimes it falls through the cracks. I don't know why. It does take a day or two for HAR to generate. So if you come to me on Friday night and like, Gina, like, fuck, I got a listing, I have a listing, they want to go on the market tomorrow, and you're so excited, and you've got your pictures and everything or whatever. And then we go to your Paragon, and I hit here, and I get a listing, and you don't have that. That means you haven't done. That means you have not done broker load, and we cannot do it for you. And I've had that happen before, where sellers aren't happy because they wanted to go on the market that weekend, and guess what? For whatever reason, it fell to the cracks. So when you go to Paragon, make sure you're going to listings and making sure you can add a listing first and foremost. But then after that, you want to make sure you get your documents signed that are going to allow you to, I'm sorry, I can't find my, there we go. This thing is getting in my way. You want to make sure your documents are done that allow you to list the home. So in Dotloop, Stephanie has made a folder. I guess I should go to the beginning. Stephanie has made a folder that has all the necessary documents. So when you want to go add a document, mine's really little, I'm sorry. You just go to add loop, and then you pick the, you type in your street name that you want, whatever your house is. And then you pull from the drop down list, and it says listing loop. That one says no lead. That means if you didn't have lead-based paint. So you just go to listing loop, and it's going to bring up all the documents for you automatically. Oh, shoot. I already have ours in here, so I'll just go ahead and go to my templates that I have set up for you. Sorry about that. And we'll go through them quickly so that you guys can know exactly what documents and what they do and what they mean. Okay, so the first and foremost, I always do ReCAD with everybody first, just because it's mandatory that we do ReCAD. Of course, that's just your real estate disclosure form. I don't know of you guys where you guys are at in your process, because like I know Jackie's been with us for a while, but for everybody else, I'm not sure where you guys have been. If you have not already been to HAR orientation, don't freak out. They'll go through these with you during orientation as well. So it's not like you're only going to see these one time. At orientation, they go through these with you probably pretty fast, but at least you'll be able to see them a second time. But again, the ReCAD is mandatory for us by the commission to go through with all of our clients, buyers or sellers. So you guys, I don't do this all the time. Sometimes I forget, but you really should be doing ReCAD with everybody, no matter what, just if they're even talking about or thinking about real estate with you. I try to act like, what if someone from the commission is auditing me? You know, you really want to make sure that you're telling people what ReCAD is. And I had someone really had a good explanation that I really liked. And they said, they know when you do ReCAD, the difference is that if you're their single agent and they sign something with you, it means you can go into great detail and advise them. If you are not under contract with somebody to be the representation, then you're not their single agent. So any kind of, you shouldn't be giving them any advice. You're not advising them until you have a signed document with this person, whether it be buyer's agency or a listing agreement. You're not the representative. At that point, you're just a transaction broker if they decided to, make a contract on something. But you're not doing them due diligence because you're not the representative. So think about it that way, and that will kind of hopefully encourage you to always go get your buyer's agency document signed and your listing document signed right away, so that as soon as that paperwork's signed, that's when you can be advising them. So anyway, I go through this with them first. These two have become more important, the transaction broker and the limited consensual dual agent. Of course, when you're someone's single agent, you're just representing that one party and you're their full fiduciary. And so that's what gives you that agency relationship. Limited consensual dual has come into play a lot more now because we have so many clients looking at the same homes. So, and also too, we have a lot of more agents in our office. So if this is your listing, the sellers have to know that we have tons of new agents in our office bringing tons of buyers. The chances of us doing a deal with another Keller Williams agent are really good. So they have to really understand limited consensual dual. Also too, if you have a hot listing that you haven't even put on the market yet, but you advertise it at the office and someone from the office needs it, those chances are increasing a lot because that didn't used to happen. You know, the first thing I usually do when I get a listing listing lead, you know, pocket lead is call my friends here and be like, hey, you guys got anybody for this? Because I have a great listing coming up. And so chances of the seller having you being limited consensual dual with a seller are good. You might even have a buyer for them. So that's happened a lot. So just make sure you know and understand what limited consensual dual is. And really in a nutshell, it just means that you are limited on the price consultation you can give with the buyers or the sellers when they're making offers. You can do most everything else, but that's when you're really limited, is giving advice on the sale price. And of course, transaction broker is important because if your buyers are looking for a for sale by owner, then you become that person's transaction broker. So anyway, that kind of goes more in the buyer's class, but those are just some things to know. But it is one of the first things I go through with my sellers. And then of course, the next most important part is the exclusive right to sell, because that's the agreement of them hiring you. It also has important information, like for example, they're allowing you to, it says in the front, give out information about the property, put a lockbox on the house. It indemnifies us from anything that happens at the house, whether something's broken or stolen or something like that. It relieves us of any kind of responsibility. Here you'll see it sets up the period of agreement. How long are you going to be allowed to list it? The terms and conditions, which means what is the price? When is the possession date? Disclosure says that the seller is acknowledging that the broker can tell people if there's any hazardous or latent defects, because by law, that's what they're supposed to be disclosing. This gives you the right to market the property, that they're allowing you to put it on the internet, that they are, I'll click through these because these are important. Sometimes people get confused on these. They're allowing you to display it on the internet, display the address on the internet. The next line says to allow an automated estimated value, and you want to put no in that because we were trying to not let the Zillows of the world give the estimated value, but they still do. I'm not really sure how that happens, but, and then of course, no to allowing third-party comments on any of our listings. This part, and I'm going through this really fast. Again, Har will go through it line by line, but this next part says that the seller acknowledges that the broker has to put all the details on the closing when it closes. So they're going to, this is telling them, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, at the end of the sale, I am required to put how much it's sold for, and if you gave any buyers help, assistance with closing cost contributions. So just so that they know that it is going to be public knowledge how much they sold their house for and if they contributed anything. This part is new from recently because we have somebody coming soon. They added this segment about active versus coming soon. If you're signing the listing agreement today and you want the house to come on the market today or the next couple of days, then you would put active. But you have only 48 hours. So as soon as you sign this document and you're clicking active, you have 48 hours to get it in the MLS. And these are some things you might want to check with Har because they have changed things. So I could be wrong about this. I need to check myself. As a matter of fact, I should call right after this class, but they have changed a couple of things. So it used to be 48 hours. If someone knows differently, chime in and let me know. But anyway, a lot of people are choosing coming soon because then you can give yourself time to do pictures or any kind of repairs that the house needs before it goes in the market, but you're still getting marketing data for them, or you're getting activity on the MLS. The difference is when you put it on the MLS, the choice between whether it's an active listing or a coming soon listing. So when you go through the listing to submit it, you'll have those options. You can also put it in the MLS as an office exclusive, which means that it will not go to the MLS, public MLS. It'll be on the MLS just for our purposes, but it will not be, I'm sorry, I was going to try to make this a little bigger. It will not be, it'll be in the office and not, it'll be in our office only and not on the entire MLS. So it'll be from Remax or Century 21, Matt Curtis, no one will be able to see that. So like I talked about before, where I had maybe a pocket listing, maybe let's say we did have an agent that was interested in the office, I probably should then put it office exclusive to give all of the other agents fair shake at it. And then if nothing pans out from that, if the seller wants to put it on active, they can do that. Keep in mind, these are all seller's choices. These are not your choices. You need to talk to the seller, ask them what they want to do, because it is a difference. I mean, your seller might be like, hey, if you can sell it in a day to somebody in your office and I don't have to show it, or I don't have to put it on the open market where people are calling me for showings, knock yourself out. I don't want to go through thousands of showings, but make them understand that maybe they may not get full access to MLS, so they may not get multiples, they may not get as much as possible money-wise, that you have to educate them. It's all their choice. It's not your choice. But advising them is your job. The bottom part is right down here where it says broker fee is where you establish how much the broker fee is going to be. So in most of our cases, our listing fee is 6%. We put 6% there. And then scrolling down, it says that the property, you're going to split the commissions with a different agent, being a buyer's agent. We don't really work with sub-agents, so we always put 0 in the sub-agent, and you put, depending on how much the seller wants to give a buyer broker, then that's where you put it. So usually it's 3%. You're taking 6% of the listing agent and splitting it with a buyer's agent. Sometimes the sellers are like, well, I don't want to pay 6%, I'll pay you 5%. If that's something that you can get Lisa to agree to accept, you can put 5% here and say either split the 5% completely between you and a buyer broker, and that would mean you'd put 2.5% here, and also 2.5% in the transaction broker. However, if you do that, first of all, anytime you reduce a commission, you have to get it approved by your broker. When people ask me to reduce my commission, or if they say, is there a lower commission, I usually say, that's a broker call, it's not my call. The check is made out to the broker, it is not made out to me at closing. That's an easy way to throw the broker under the bus if you don't want to be like, I'm not reducing my commission. Some people just straight up say no. Most of our scripts just tell you to say no, I'm not reducing it. It's 6% of standard. Sometimes I'll reduce mine if my client is also buying. I feel like, I'm getting 3% on their buy, I will reduce their sale price. If I do that, I never reduce the buyer broker to 2.5%. I always say 3%. Well, I should say, I always encourage the seller to do that, because I don't really think it's fair for a buyer broker to have that 2.5% reduction when I'm the one who decided to reduce my commission on the listing side, if that makes sense. I mean, normally it's 3 and 3. It was my choice to reduce my listing commission because it's my client. I don't want to pass that, that difference on to a buyer's agent who's expecting 3%. It's not fair for them. That's my opinion. You'll have other agents out there that do it differently, that say, no, listing is 5, we always split, so we're going 2.5. I don't think you're going to have buyer's agents out there that are not going to show your house because it's only 2.5%. Sometimes people are like, well, I'm not showing a house that's only 2.5% because I'm supposed to get 3. I don't operate that way, but like I said, I don't think especially in this market with the limited inventory we have, I don't think you're going to have that problem. I think you're always going to have a buyer's agent come, even if it's 2.5%. But again, these are conversations that you have to have with your seller. I skipped over the 30-day part right here. It says the buyer, it says the broker fee shall be due whether the purchaser is secured by the broker or the seller or any other person, and if the property is sold within 30 days from the termination of the agreement, that basically it says the listing agent is still due that money, because that phrase kind of keeps anybody from showing the house, and then like meeting the buyer and be like, hey, guess what? My listing expires, you know, May 1st. How about you come back May 15th without your agent, and we'll just cut all the agents out, and we'll, you know, I'll sell my house cheaper and I'll make more money, kind of behind the scenes kind of thing. That just says that you have 30 days to still recoup your money if they sell it to someone within that time. I mean, I put 30 days in there, but the chances of me going to try to find that out after after a listing has expired are probably slim to none. It's like I would have to actually stalk those people to find out that they sold their house to somebody, and it seems like a lot of work, but it's just something you put in there to prevent that from happening, if that makes sense. Anyway, the next part is agency disclosure. It kind of just reiterates what you talked about in RECAD and lets the seller know that if, as a listing agent, you can be a limited consensual or you can be an agent, because you don't really know until the sale is coming, if that makes sense. When you first start out, you are a single agent because you are their representative, but you don't know who's going to bring an offer. I mean, any Keller Williams agent can bring an offer, or you can bring an offer. So you still always have the option of being a limited consensual dual. And then also too, it says the seller agrees that the broker may cooperate with a buyer broker and a transaction broker. We do not click sub-agent. Oh, one thing I want to tell you about having a listing. When you talk about limited consensual dual, at the very beginning, before you even list the house, you need to have a conversation with the seller. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there is a chance that I could bring a buyer from an open house, or just perhaps somebody that I know who may want your house. Is it okay with you for me to represent both sides? You want to know that before you even put your sign in the yard, because if you don't have that conversation and you are at an open house and somebody comes in without a buyer's agent and says, I want this house, I want to write an offer now, I want you to represent me, and you're all excited because you're like, woo, I'm going to get both sides, wow, yay, it's so exciting. And then you write that contract up and the seller says, wait a minute, I don't want you to represent this person because you represent me, and you have a major issue. So you want to know, coming out of the gate, do I have permission to represent both sides? Believe me, it happened to me. It's not fun. Okay, so lead-based paint disclosure. If the house was built before 1978, you have to have a separate form that says there's no lead-based paint, or that they know of. This next part here on the listing doc is really important. It talks about what is in the home and what needs to be left with the home and working in the home. This causes a lot of problems. I wish I could highlight this, but it causes a lot of problems during closing sometimes. People think, oh, it's my basketball goal. It was attached to the house, but my grandmother gave it to me, so I want to take it with me, and they take it down. And then the buyer gets there and they're like, wait a minute, there was a basketball goal here, and you're the day of closing and people are fighting, and that's not good. So go through this one. I don't usually go through these things line by line with my sellers, but this one we talk about a lot, because they need to know. You cannot take grandma's, what do you call it, stained glass window out of the home if you showed it that way. If you do not want to sell it that way, you need to take it out before you show it. So those things are very important. The next thing talks about earnest money, which now the buyer's agent keeps, or the title company can keep. That's really not a source of contention ever. And the next part talks about arbitration. Basically, it says that we try to go to arbitration in lieu of suing anybody, but you have to know that people still can be sued no matter what, even if we go to arbitration. Like, even if the seller just wins the arbitration fight, a buyer still can sue them later on. It's not really, doesn't really keep you from being sued. Number 12 says seller's warranty. That says that the seller can give title, that it's going to be a clean title. That's another important conversation to have, because what if you have a son that's selling grandma's house? You need to have that conversation. Okay, do you have authority to sell? Do you have authority to give a clean title? If they don't, you need to figure that out, because you can't put something on the market with that person on this exclusive right to sell and it not be their home to sell, if that makes sense. Divorce situations, if a husband says, my wife left me, I'm selling the house, her name still needs to be on the contract, because if she lived in the home, then under Alabama law, she still has to have give rights to sell it, even if she's not on the deed, or he or she, doesn't matter either way. Okay, this one's new too. It talks about photographing. It basically kind of gives us just liability from any issues that happen with photography or it being online. And that's pretty much it. Once they sign this, you are ready to list it. Again, I would go back through HAR and make sure you have clear. The whole coming soon thing is a little bit confusing right now. There's a list date and a marketing date. When you have a listing, if you are going to do it coming soon, make sure you give HAR a call just to make sure they haven't changed anything on the coming soon details. They've changed it a couple times here and there. Here is, once you sign up on the exclusive right to sell and they say they're coming soon, you also have to do this addendum. So it basically says when you're listing it, when they have signed the listing agreement, and then what is the marketing date. If they've signed the listing agreement today, but they're not marketing it until next week, then that's the marketing date you put on there, and you can't market it until that day. You can't advertise it. You can't list it as coming soon. These are the details on coming soon. Basically, it says that you can have a sign in the yard and you can have a coming soon sign, but it's only in the MLS that's coming soon. Only people on Valley MLS can see it. Zillow does not get that information. Let's see what else. Oh, nobody can show it. If you get busted showing it, both you and the buyer's agent will be charged $1,000. It's a temporary status, of course. If you say that we're listing it on July 1st and with the coming soon to be expected on July 30th, after 30 days, if you do not actually turn it to active, it will expire. So you want to make sure you hit that 30 days. It doesn't calculate days on market, etc. And there's some rules about how like you can't list it and it expires and then do coming soon again. Once you've done coming soon once, that's it. Let's see. Now I will say you can sell it sight unseen. So if you have a coming soon and a client calls in from California and says, hey, I want that house, I don't care if I don't see it, I want you to write an offer, then you can do that. But there is a document called sight unseen that we use that basically makes them agree to that, and it's fine to do that. Not a problem. Just make sure you have all those documents signed, because you want to make sure you cover yourself if HAR ever comes after you for that. Okay, so we talked about exclusive right to sell. We talked about coming soon addendum. This is a agreement to list is exclusively a Keller Williams document that I would check with Lisa on this one. Basically, it is if you know someone's going to list with you. They're not ready to do coming soon and they're not ready to list it, but you want them to sign it so that you have them signed and locked down. This is the document for that. It basically just says, yes, they're going to list with you, has all the information, and then it says, I can't imagine anybody would ever get away with this, but it says the parties agree that if the property is not placed on the market for any reason, that the seller agrees to compensate the broker for 3%. And I guess that's just to keep them from selling it to somebody else on their own. That would be a Brodowski question. I'm not sure exactly why they put that in there. But it's basically just for you to be able to have them something to sign so that you're going to list their home. Or if they have somebody else, like let's say, for example, they have another interested party that they want to sell it to, they find their own buyer, that kind of keeps you protected too, because you're still the listing agent. And that's probably why it was come to fruition. Because when people start to sell their house, they get excited and they tell coworkers. And since we have such a limited inventory, the coworker will be like, oh my gosh, my daughter's looking for a house. Let her see it, let her see it. And now what you have is essentially what's happened is a for sale by owner. And the seller's like, well, hey, you didn't do anything. I sold my house myself. But that's when you step in with that agreement. You say, well, you agreed to let me list it. Now let me go ahead and just transaction broker the whole thing for you and walk you guys through it for 3%. And that's kind of how you protect your money. If you haven't, the limited consensual dual agency is standard for both the buyers and the sellers. It breaks down just a line by line explanation of what limited consensual is. I highly recommend you read through that. It's very, very easy to read, very easy to understand, and it's very basic. Let's see. Oh, both buyers and sellers also have to agree to sign the capital title affiliated business disclosure. This is a form that's mandated by Keller Williams, not HAR. So HAR mandates that you have the exclusive right to sell, RECAD, and the coming soon if you're doing coming soon. The capital title and the other documents are just Keller Williams documents. The sight unseen is also a Keller Williams document, but you have to have this to get paid. So if you're missing documents, you're not going to get your paycheck when you close. So make sure that you're getting all your documents in. This one basically just says that the seller understands, should the sale close at capital title, which is Mr. Brodowski's office, that they understand that Keller Williams has a financial relationship with them. Somebody's making money somewhere. It's not me, it's not you, unfortunately. We're not getting any money from closing at capital title, but somebody in our organization is making money, and it's just a financial disclosure. Because someone somewhere got sued because they didn't know we were in financial relationship with them. This one you're probably not going to need anytime soon, but I'll show it to you anyway. If you have a listing that has to change their price or decides to pause their listing for whatever reason, this is the document that allows you to do that and keep it documented, for lack of better words, so that they can't say, I didn't tell her to take it off pause. Why did you take it off pause? Or I didn't tell her to, reduce the price. This just is a CYA pretty much. So you just put the MLS number, the address, the contingencies, whatever's changing in the MLS, this is what you're putting in there. Is it a new expiration date? Let's say, for example, you expired and they're going to extend it. Price change is probably the most important or the most used reason why this document is filled out. Whether it's withdrawn, let's say they had their house on the market and they decided, hey, we can't move. COVID's keeping us from moving. We need to withdraw the home, et cetera, et cetera. Anything else, you make them sign this document. Again, this is just kind of a CYA so that they can't come back and say, oh my gosh, you did something we weren't allowing. Sometimes when I have a good old listing appointment that the seller thinks, we're going to get $450 for our house, I just know it. And I say, well, the market doesn't really show that. The market really shows your house is worth $425. I really think $425 is going to be your number. And they say, no, we want to try $450. And I say, okay, let's do this. Since we know that if you're on the market for more than 2 weeks with no offers, you're overpriced, how about let's you try $450 for 2 weeks, and at the 2-week mark, if we don't have an offer, we're going to immediately drop to $425. And they say, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that idea. It's a good compromise for somebody who will not move off of their price point. Go ahead and fill this out the same day that you're doing the listing appointment, the same day that you're signing the exclusive right to sell. Go ahead and put the 2-week date on it. So if it's May 15th, put May 15th up there, or let's just say July 15th. Because that way, that's when it goes into effect. July 15th, MLS number, new price is $425. And once they sign that, they have agreed to that. So you don't have to call them on July 15th. They've dated it prior. It says July 15th is when it's the change. You don't have to call them and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, July 15th, we're gonna drop the price, because what are they gonna say on July 15th? They're gonna say, no, we had so many showings and everyone just loves our house so much, and we just know we're gonna get $450. That's not gonna happen. Your expertise, your advising from other agents in the office has told you, they're not getting $425, $450, they have to get $425. So this keeps you from doing that. You can call them later on that day and say, hey, guess what? Great news. The reduction to $425 has gotten us tons of more showings. You have 5 more showings tonight. but I wouldn't call them that morning and say, do I have your permission? Because this document already gives you that permission. So it's just a really good strategy for anytime you have someone who's not going to move off their price. Okay, so those are all the documents. And basically, once you have those, you are ready to go. You need to, some things to discuss with sellers are, of course, the condition of their home. There's 3 things that sell a home, and only 3 things. And anybody can try to argue, but there's only 3 things. It's condition, price, and location. It's been true for hundreds of years. It's still going to be true for 100 more years. The location of the home is what drives the prices the most, then the condition of the home, and then the price. Well, I guess somebody might argue differently that price is second. But those price and condition are the only 2 things that you can change, that they can change. They cannot pick their house up and move it, even though I've had 1,000 people ask me to do that when they're buying. They want me to, they found a perfect house in a wrong location. They want me to move it. Can't do that, but we can change the condition and the price. So if you are priced well and you are getting hundreds of showings, but no one is making an offer, chances are it's condition. If the flip is true, if you're not getting any showings and the condition's really, really, really great, then more than likely it's price. So right now it's a very fine line to walk. I showed a house in, I can't remember the name of the neighborhood now. It's James Clemens School District, price is $339. It's a good house. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a little bit dated, but it's been on the market for 5 days now in Madison City. Unfortunately, right now, 5 days in Madison City is too many. It's just too many. I mean, and it's unbelievable to say that because we used to be 50 days on market not too long ago was standard. But now, if you're in Madison City in that 300 price point, especially anything under 300, and you don't have multiple offers, something's wrong. And you got to address it fast because then people get, again, this job is, as I said earlier about people's behaviors are contagious. This job is so about the lemming mentality. Either people want it or they don't. The majority of my buyers, I can see the majority of actions is when people want it, they flock to it. And then when it doesn't have an offer on something, then everybody goes, oh, something's wrong with it. They didn't get multiple offers. Oh, something's wrong with it. And then nobody else wants it. So it is a very fine line. It's really imperative, to be honest with you, for houses to be completely move-in ready. Our buyers are conditioned to have that for them. They want everything move-in ready, and if they don't, they drag their feet on a house. So you're not going to get top dollar if you're not 100% move-in ready, unless you're willing to drop that price down. So having those conversations about condition, curb appeal, that type of thing, doing as much as they can up front is very important. Staging in pictures is crucial. A staged house will sell, there's stats out there, I don't know them, but I can just tell you the staged houses sell some, I want to say 13%, I could be wrong, but they sell for a lot higher. People just cannot imagine that stuff in their houses, but when they see something staged and they think it's a model house or they think it's a staged home, they lose their minds and they offer a lot more than they would have if it was empty. If you can't afford to stage a home, I virtually stage homes. I use a website called Box Brownie. It's $32 a picture, which is not really a lot of money. If I'm making $9,000 on a listing, $32 a picture is really not a big investment when I can. They do a great job virtually staging it. So on the MLS, which is your very first showing, that looks like it's a staged home. Now, when they get there, of course, I have to put the pictures inside the home, so it changes a little bit, but it does give them an idea of what it can look like. And if you don't do that, they cannot envision it themselves. So for your sellers, I think that's a good investment. Some agents roll in staging price charges for their clients. They say, hey, your house is vacant. I am willing to hire somebody, but it's going to cost $1,500. If you're willing to pay that amount, your house will sell for more, but it's going to be a charge to you. So if that's something you want to try, you're more than welcome to try that. And I can give you some staging companies if you want. Things about signage in their yard, ease of showing, lockbox decisions, that kind of stuff. Sometimes you'll get an HOA that does not allow signs in the yard, so you have to put it in the window. By ease of showing, I mean how they need to make their house available. Like, I can't tell you how frustrating it is in the hot market for a buyer to say, we don't want to share, we don't want to show, we want to, we need to take the night off, we're tired, they can't do that. They have to be ready to go. And in this market, usually I say, hey, why don't you guys just plan to go out of town for the weekend, or, plan on going over somebody's house, for a little while. It's harder to do now with COVID, of course, but it just makes it a lot easier for the house to be unoccupied. Getting rid of animals, pets, and stuff like that. Like, it's really hard to show a house with an animal inside the home. Cats and dogs, sometimes people are allergic. Sometimes they're afraid of them. Sometimes you'll have yappy dogs that just bark incessantly, even though they're in a cage, and it's impossible to show a house that way. So this was your job to tell all of these sellers, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I get it. Fluffy's not going to attack anybody, but if you have someone that has a cat allergy, they're not going to come in this house. So, and it's more and more common. So that's something that you need to think about to talk about with your sellers. Lockbox decisions, I put that on there because at one time I had a seller who, she was an older woman, like in her 80s, and she was petrified about that lockbox. She did not want a lockbox. And I was like, well, you kind of have to have a lockbox. And then I come to find out after talking to her, she just didn't want it outside all the time. So I totally get that. I said, that totally is fine. What we need to do then is, let's just put it inside your home. And when I call you to say you have an appointment, then you can leave it out when you've left. Somebody had walked in on her at some time and it just freaked her out. So, and it happens. People make mistakes. Sometimes agents forget to call and tell, I'm going to go ahead and switch that. Tell their clients that there's somebody coming. So it does happen. I mean, I'm not going to say it has never happened before. Let's see what else. So making sure that they're aware that the lockbox is going to be where it's going to be placed and that it's accessible to people only with a code. I talked a little bit about, I talked about pets. Smoking in a home makes a home very hard to sell. So that's something you need to talk about. And then just keeping it clean all the time, keeping stuff off the floor, keeping things off the floor in the closets, just kind of paring everything down. I tell all my clients, you want your house to look like a hotel. Think about when you go to a hotel. It's decorated, it's nice, it's clean, it still feels like you're comfortable, but there's no pictures of the kids up, there's no trophies, there's no decorative things that kind of are very one-sided. I mean, you really want to make sure it's just kind of very generic. And if they need to live in it, then just pack everything up and put it into the garage. People don't care about a garage as much. If you put it in nice boxes up along the wall, that shows the clients that you're moving. But we have sellers that have a house. I mean, I've shown houses that are just packed full to the ceiling with tchotchkes and all kinds of stuff. I mean, just all kinds of things. Years full of memorabilia. That person's not motivated to move. That is not a motivated person to move. So what are the chances that they're going to, someone's going to make an offer on it because, sorry, trying to chat button. Because you're not motivated to move. How long is it going to take you? So that's just kind of one thing to think about. I'm trying to think of other things. And then, of course, we'll having a conversation about reducing the price. We already talked about that a little bit. They need to be prepared. If they need to reduce the price and by how much. Okay. Home warranty. Home warranties used to be a really big thing where people were providing home warranties. That's not as true so much because of the market. You don't really have to. I used to provide home warranties as part of my sale. It's not 100% mandatory anymore. The market is just, it is what it is. Closing costs. The seller really only has closing costs of buyer's commission, seller's commission, and then half of the title insurance, and then doc prep fees. All those numbers are on your estimated closing statement, which, by the way, you have to provide an estimated closing statement each time the price changes. So when you list a house for $300,000, you need to have an estimated closing statement signed by the seller. If it changes to $295,000, you need to have another new estimated closing statement signed so to see that they still get their net and they've agreed to their net before accepting an offer. Okay, last thing would be what to do during showings for stuff like medication and valuables. You need to have those conversations with your clients about making sure they have anything valuable. I don't care if it's just emotionally, what do you call it, like heirlooms and that kind of stuff. All pieces of art, whatever it is. If something means something to your clients and it's very valuable to them, they need to put it somewhere else. They need to take it off site. They need to store it somewhere. It's just that even the half a percentage of something happening to it, you just don't want that responsibility as an agent. If you've had that conversation with them and they choose not to do something about it, then that's their choice. But you want to make sure you have those conversations with them. Medication, personal information, never leave any of that stuff out. I showed a house one time that had guns all over the place, ammunition, CVS bags, medication receipts. I mean, it was granted like a kind of a hoarder's house, but that's extremely dangerous in the hands of other people. I mean, it had social security numbers out and all kinds of stuff, and nobody had a conversation with that seller to scare them into saying, this is stuff that could potentially harm me or harm someone else, and I could be sued for it. I mean, that's the reality of it. They're in their home. So having those conversations, not to scare them, but just to kind of make sure they know what could happen. And it's not your responsibility to make them do it, but it is your responsibility to tell them about it. Okay, so I went over that really fast. I know, I'm sorry. But again, if you haven't been to horror orientation, they do go over this with you. When we go through, what is it called? Ignite, they'll talk more about marketing a home, especially now with Command. The game has changed completely when I first started from just doing Facebook ads and stuff like that. Now that we have Command, there's many more ways to advertise a home. But again, in this market right now, a lot of times it's just not necessary. I mean, stuff is just going so quickly. Okay, I've got 11 o'clock, so I'm gonna have to let you guys go. Does anybody have any questions? I know I flew through that. And usually when we're here on site, it's a little bit more interactive, so I do apologize for that.
No questions.
Nobody? Jamaica, Joy, anybody? No? Okay. Well, go find a listing, and as soon as you do, let us know, and we will walk you through every bit of it. Like I said before, that was really fast. It was just going to give you a highlight of what to look for. But when you do find a listing, Lisa has given you guys all the ALC phone numbers. Do not ever hesitate to pick up the phone. We are all here. We've all been through it. I think I probably asked our broker at the time like 15 times before I ever got the listing. Because the problem is that you don't do it every day. So you'll have one listing. Well, if you're lucky to do it every day, that would be fantastic. But most of us don't have listings every day. So we'll get one or two. We do one or two a month, and then we have to do it again the next month. And it's something you don't practice. And just like anything else, if you're not practicing it every single day, you don't remember it. So especially all the little clicks and the uploading and all the paperwork. And it definitely is overwhelming. But I don't want you guys to think that you should walk away from this class knowing exactly what to do. You should just walk away with some kind of, oh yeah, remember Gina said something about recap and something about, exclusive right to sell and maybe something about a listing document. So it's just really kind of to give you a introduction. And when you have a listing, that's when you call us in a panic and say, I need help. So we are here and we will help.
Okay.
Is everybody good?
Yeah, thank you.
Y'all have a
Good,
great day.
thank
Thanks
you.
for joining. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.